Welcome back, and now we're going to take a look at what's new in Auto-Tune 7. The biggest and most compelling feature in Auto-Tune 7 is now its ability to manipulate time as well as pitch. And you accomplish that over here in the graphic editor. And for those of you familiar with the toolbar of the previous version of Auto-Tune, you'll see now we've got these two new tools. This one's called the Move Point tool, and this one's called the Move Region tool. The Move Point tool allows you to select a range and then manipulate a point from within inside that range, whereas the Move Region tool allows you to move entire notes or regions or even phrases, while at the same time keeping their internal timing intact. And I'll give you an example of the two of those right now. Now, we've got a demo file here of a female vocal. Now, this is taken straight off the Antares disc that comes with Auto-Tune, and it's also available as a download from the website. So what you'll hear is a female vocal and then a shadow track which will be lower, and that's the timing reference we're trying to get to. So you'll hear that the top track is not quite in time in a few spots. So I'm going to come down here to the track, pitch and time button. So I'll click this on now and you'll see it's flashing red and blue, and we'll go.
Time, oh, time is an illusion. To feel okay with all of our delusions.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is that first word time comes in early and finishes early, so it's ahead of the beat the whole time. So what I'll do is come down here and hold my mouse here, and you can see that it turns into a zooming tool. So I'll just click over that front word, zoom into there, and that's where it is. Now I'm going to use the Move Region tool for this, which is this last tool here. And it's a very intuitive three-step process the way this tool works. When I come down into the waveform area now, you'll see that I've got an I-beam, as if I'd just chosen the I-beam tool here. But in this case, it's an I-beam for the first step of the process. So it wants me to lay out the playing field that we're going to be moving the note between. So I'm going to grab literally from the beginning of the word there and into this dead area here. Now the tool is still showing an I-beam, and I make now a secondary selection over the area that I wish to move. So the first selection was just laying down the playing field. Now I'm going to drag from here to there. And now the cursor has turned into this new icon, denoting the fact that I'm about to move the region. So I can just literally pick it up, and as you can see, I can slide it within those boundaries that I've set. So I'll put it about there, and let's have a listen now.
Time.
No, it's still too early, so I'll take it a bit later.
Time.
Getting closer a bit more.
Time.
Bang on. So to hear it before and after, we can just come down and turn off this enable button here in the time control section.
Time.
Turn it back on. And here this waveform you can see is showing a before and after. So the after is the upper one, the before is the lower one.
Time.
Okay, perfect. So let's move on to the next problem. Now in this phrase, the last word illusion is held for too long. Let's have a listen.
Oh, time is an illusion.
Okay, so this time we're going to use the Move Point tool. Now this works the same way as the Move Region tool, but actually minus one step. All we need to do is set the area within which we wish to manipulate, and then do the stretching or compressing from there. So I'm going to finish at this little dead spot there, and I'll pick it up about halfway through the word. Now I'll just play that back so I can look at the overview as it's playing.
Oh, time is an illusion.
Now I'll come back a little bit earlier than that. So I'll just clear that, clicking outside. Come back a little bit earlier, because she attacks that note right on time, just that she holds it for too long. So now you can see the cursors turn into that stretching tool after my initial selection. And I can now put the mouse towards the end of the phrase here and just close it down from that side. So let's play that back.
Oh, time is an illusion.
Yep, still too long, I'd say. So let's close it down a bit more.
Oh, time is an illusion.
Yeah, pretty good. Now keep in mind at this point we've done no pitch correction at all, because her vibrato, for instance, is quite strong at the end there. We haven't touched that, and of course that can still all be done after this. But just looking at the timing, we're pretty much there now. And as a final demonstration now to show how powerful this feature really is, we're going to go to the very last phrase where there's actually an internal timing error in the word delusion. So let's have a listen.
With all of our delusions.
Right, so you can hear that she jumps on one syllable there. Play it back again so we can just spot it with our eye here.
with all of our delusion.
Right, so you can see it's pretty much where I'm pointing at there. That's coming in too early, that part there. But the start and the end is fine. So again, we're going to use the Move Point tool. And I'm going to select right across this region here to about there. Now let's have another listen.
With all of our delusion.
Okay, now using this same tool, I'm going to select around that area there and just drag that little pointy bit a bit later. Let's have a listen.
With all of our delusion.
Spot on. Now let me just undo that to point out something here. So back to where we were, and I'll come a bit that way. As you may have picked up, it's a very position sensitive tool. So if I click and drag towards the end of the region here, I'm moving just the tail. And vice versa at the other side here, I'm moving just the front, or if you click somewhere in the middle, you can be moving just bits in the middle. So it's a very clever tool. So that's just a taste of the time manipulation in Auto-Tune 7, but please check the detailed videos on this later in this tutorial. We'll now move on to the second new feature, which is the new ability to adjust the throat length on an individual correction object basis. To quickly illustrate that, we'll track just the pitch of one phrase of this new vocal.
Don't stop when you're hot, go and give it your best shot.
And I'll select all there, and just for now I'll import the auto, so we've got some curves there. So now we have some tuning in place. And now down here we've actually got the throat length adjust control, which works on an object by object basis. And in a bizarre example here, what I'll do is I'll grab that first object and I'll make the throat length all the way to -50. So I'm going to be very dramatic just to show it. And here I'll go to +50 and vice versa. I'll just keep bouncing around these a little bit. Even if I miss a few, it doesn't matter. So just to show that it can actually be independent of each object. And up we go. And format has to be selected, and it is there, so that's fine. So now have a listen.
Don't stop when you're hot, go and give it your best shot.
So there we go, totally independent of each other. Another new feature is the ability to record MIDI note information in graphical mode. And these controls down here are going to help us with that later. I'll do a really cool demo, and that'll show us how we can actually record MIDI information in from our keyboard and then apply it to note data to completely change melodies. In previous versions of Auto-Tune, this adjust vibrato feature would replace existing pitch edits. But now in Auto-Tune 7, those pitch edits remain intact, and the adjust vibrato feature operates on top of those again. So that way you can use multiple tools working together to get the job done. Next up is the smooth continuous scrolling of the graphical audio data. So if I hit play now,
Don't stop when you're
we get the center line popping up and the data in the background scrolls around it.
Don't stop when you're hot, go and give it your best shot.
With our nice little throat demo in the background there. Now as you can see, this amplitude waveform envelope in the background is ever present once we've tracked data. And that's great for a number of reasons. Firstly, it helps with edits. So just back here, you can see exactly what you're editing on. When we're doing our time compression expansion type edits, you know, it's easy to bracket over the exact waveform start and stop points. So very handy for that. It's also handy for troubleshooting. If, for instance, you've got a problem and audio's not coming out, you can at least see here that Auto-Tune does or does not have data there in its buffer ready to go. As I mentioned in the previous video, the graphical timeline now can display as bars and beats, as well as just time. So down here with this option, we click over to bars and beats, and this information is derived from your host. So that location information is handed right over, and your main workstation and Auto-Tune are in parity with each other in terms of location points. Next up, there's now an increased vertical zoom range in graphical mode, and that gets right down literally to 1 cent per pixel. So we can zoom right in here, and it's pretty crazy. So if you want to get down and really tune something, so we can literally get right down here and, you know, move things in a very small boundary. I mean, look at that. That's 100 cents from there to there. So the finest of fine tuning is available if you need it. And lastly now, we can display the cursor's position in time, which is really handy. So down here, there's a little cursor time position readout. So wherever we put the cursor, we get that readout, which is handy if you're zoomed in very close like we are now, or you get lost for some other reason. You can always wave your mouse around, have a look down there and get an idea of where you actually are. So they're the new features that are in Auto-Tune 7. But now please join me for the rest of the tutorial when we take a really deep look at all the features of the plugin. See you next time.